And we're also lucky to talk a little Detroit Lions with this guy, Braylon Edwards. He is the one, the only, the great Mike O'Hara, DetroitLions.com. Mike, how you doing, my friend? Thanks for the time.
Listen, guys, thanks for having me. Braylon, Tommy, thanks for having me up.
Hey, love you, Luke. Love you, man.
There you go. Mike, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is, do you have any more Tom Mazaway stories?
No.
That's all we need.
No, we're good.
Right. Oh, he says we're good. Oh, okay, good.
12 minutes of mass stories.
Well, he almost had me fired 3 times.
Uh-oh.
Do I have any more Tom Mazaway stories?
That's what I initially said, but Tom says I'm not allowed to ask about that right now.
Off limits.
Yeah, I better be quiet. I don't want. He's got a family to feed.
Right.
I better be quiet.
Right.
BTS is done anyway in the news.
Exactly. Hey, Mike, I wanted to. You wrote a great piece on DetroitLions.com, the 5 quarterbacks that could interest the Detroit Lions, and I found that to be interesting because all 5 of these guys are names that have been associated with the Lions in some way, shape, or form. Is there? I don't even know if this is a fair question, but is there one guy that you would like to see here?
Well, let me just add one thing there. We did not include Bryce Young or C.J. Sprout because it's not realistic at all that they're going to be available to the Lions. I mean, they're probably, in all probability, they'll go at picks 1 and 2. So people out there wondering why we didn't include them, that's why. And other positions, too, there are a couple of players who did that, too.
And probably, Mike, let me just say to the people, I didn't say which 5 quarterbacks there were. Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, Hendon Hooker, Aiden O'Connell from Purdue, and Tanner McGee from Stanford. I apologize. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Each one of those guys in there has something to might draw the Lions' interest. And you can start with Will Lewis, strong arm. I mean, a really strong arm. I saw a photo of him working out the other day, and he looks like one of those wrestlers from WWE or WWF, whatever the heck they call it these days. Anthony Richardson. I actually today I'm working on my final mock draft, mock 4.0 that will come out 2 days, I think a day before the season starts. He's probably to me been the most puzzling player because I don't know. Do I rate him as a prospect or do I rate him as a quarterback? And I mean, look, I love him doing the backflip at his pro day. I love him hitting the roof with the ball. Where does that get you as a quarterback, though? I don't know if that gets you anywhere. But his athletic ability, just seems to have a joy of playing the game. To me, is undeniable. And really, I moved him up my list just today. Now that's the one that's going to go out in 3.5 weeks, but. He's kind of sold me a little bit where he hadn't before. I mean, not that he had to sell me, but that's just my opinion. Henderson Hooker, look, he had the misfortune of getting hurt. I think the last quarter of the last play of last season at Tennessee. But boy, you talk about production, you talk about size. He just looks like he has that body, built to play quarterback in the National Football League, and he had production. You look at it, and I'm really. But as I go along here, I'm going to have to move him up somehow. I'm not sure he's going to get into the top 18 with the Lions having the 6th pick and the 18th pick overall. That's certainly a candidate. And then the other couple of guys just in there that might be, down the line guys, just 3rd, 4th, 5th round draft picks. If you're looking for a guy for long range development.
Hey, Mike, if Anthony Richardson is on the board at 6, and most draft pundits do not believe he will be on the board at 6, but if he is there at 6, do the Lions take him there?
Well, I can't. I don't speak for them. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I want somebody I could put on the field, play 17 games this year. I think he's a ways away from that. First of all, you have a good quarterback already in Jared Goff. And people seem to not recognize this. He's a good young quarterback, just turned 28. He's got, 7 years of his, of his career ahead of absolutely, the best parts of his career. So there are a lot of reasons, some have nothing to do with Anthony Richardson. So to me, at number one, it's the fact that you have a quarterback. But, let him go somewhere else where he can start and play.
Hey, Mike, this is more about a side of the ball than an actual particular player. Obviously, people talked a lot about the Lions needing defensive interior linemen at 6. They talk about maybe needing a DB at 18. Obviously, since a lot of the pickups in the offseason, Cam Sutton, Mosley, as well as C.J. Gardner-Johnson, now you're seeing the team may go in a different direction. Now people are talking offense. Would you be opposed to the Lions going offense at 6 and 18? Maybe something like Skoronski at 6, maybe Hendon Hooker at 18, or Bijan at 18. Some form of 2 offensive players at 6 and 18. Would you oppose?
Well, I was really on the Skoronski bandwagon for a long time, but just studying more and hearing a little bit more, and just some of the stuff I've read. The only weighs 311 pounds, something like that.
Yeah,
and he just looks small
run blocking
too.
Guy.
Yeah, he just looks small too, and I like him. Look, he's got the lineage. His grandfather played for the Green Bay Packers back in the 50s and 60s when they won 5 championships in 7 years. So it's really, he's got the genes for it, and he'll be a first-round pick in top half of the first round. But the running back intrigues me more than any of those other players you mentioned. I would, if I was looking for a running back, I would take him in a minute. I really would. And if the Lions take him, all the more good to them. That would not be a bad pick to me at all. It's not what I would do, but it would not be a bad pick at all.
Mike O'Hara, DetroitLions.com, joining us on the phone right now. And Mike, the free agency period has essentially come and gone with the Detroit Lions, and guys are getting their numbers now. There's a lot of excitement about this team. Has Brad Holmes put them in a position in this upcoming draft to just take the best player available? I know that's kind of a boring statement, but are there any major needs on this team where he has to fit a player into 6 or fit a player into 18, or can he legit just go down his board and take whoever the best player is?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we've been talking about that out here the last week and a half. Number one, to me, the only pressing need gotta have is a proven backup quarterback or a proven quarterback who can be your backup. And I don't think they have that. I really don't. They haven't had it for a couple of years, actually, but I think that's something that Brad Holmes and his staff have to solve. Hopefully hopefully on their behalf before they start the off-season program, but certainly before they get to training camp. But I think they're in a position right now where they can take the best player available, and I don't think that's a bad position to be in at all. I mean, one of the things that really I think that ruins rosters is when you start reaching for players. Number one, to fill a need and taking players that are taking substandard players. That's number one, and number two. And I had this told to me by somebody, a personnel person, a very highly rated personnel person, also said the other thing is that you look and you see something, or you try to see something in a player that's really not there. Let's just say, for example, the Detroit Lions need a tight end or a wide receiver or whatever it is, and there's nobody on the board who's like a first or second round pick, and so you try to force feed a third round pick into that position, and it weakens your roster over time. And so I don't think the Lions are in that position. First of all, there's no evidence that in his first 2 years as general manager of the Lions, there's no evidence at all that Brad Holmes goes that way. We just look at the players, look at the picks he and his staff have produced in 2 years, with more to come, including this year's free agent group. So I don't think it's a concern, but I don't think it's one for the Detroit Lions.
Mike, my apologies. Last question out of me. We talk so much about the draft. We talk so much about free agent. I'm going to just jump into the season next year. Is there a game you have circled on your calendar, like that's going to be the game? If the Lions win this one, this is when I'm completely excited and bought into what they can be.
Well, they haven't. We only know the opponents. We don't know the order yet. That'll come out later this month, I think. I think it's number one. Whoever they play on Thanksgiving Day, we'll know when they go off when they walk off the field on Thanksgiving Day. We'll know how deeply rooted they are into the race. We really will, and that'll probably be like game 11, game 12, something like that.
Yeah.
Just to me, just looking back on it too, and really, Braylon, I haven't really given this much thought, but since you asked, I just think that at that point we will know everything we need to know about the Detroit Lions. And you know what? I expect it to be something. I expect it to be good reading. I really do.
I love it.
Looking forward to it, Mo. Hey, that defensive backfield, they have reworked it completely, and they got some players back there, some hitters, and you get to see Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes talk about these guys. You could see their face and how excited they are. I wanted to ask you about Jeff Okudah and how he fits in to this secondary. What are your thoughts on Jeff going forward?
Well, first of all, a great question. I really thought, after 2 years where he barely played, he only played 9 games with 4 starts in his rookie year 2 years ago. 3 years ago. 2 years ago, he played part of the first half before going out with an Achilles injury.
Yep.
And then last year, he started the first 15 games. He looked good, most of it, but didn't finish the season. So something came unhinged there at the end. The Lions were playing for the playoffs the last 2 weeks, and he wasn't part of it. So that's Tommy, that's a great question, and I don't have a great answer for it because I don't know. But I'll put it this way: I don't like what I saw. It certainly didn't. It didn't elevate him in my eyes or anybody else's. I don't think. But look, he's a player with talent. He's a guy who works at it. But somehow or other, he's got to find a way to bring it all together. He really does.
We hope so.
Hey, Mike, the Lions have 5 of the top 81 picks in the draft, 5 of 81. Did they make all 5 selections, do you think? I mean, the reason I ask that is because I feel like this team doesn't need 5 starters. I mean, if Brad Holmes identifies somebody, for something is telling me they're not making 5 picks here in the top 81.
That's a great question, and this is off the top of my head, but I might not have the numbers exactly right. But I think the Lions went into last season with 7 draft picks, or 8. I'm not sure which one. It was either 7 or 8, and they gave up one of those in the trade for Jameson Williams. Okay, but when it was all said and done, he had maneuvered his picks and his board, and he still had those 7 or 8 picks by making other deals. So, he had, in other words, he had enough picks to deal with and do whatever he wanted to do with them. Here's what I think. I would be surprised, and I wrote this on my Mach 3 draft pick earlier this week, came out on Monday. I would be surprised if the Detroit Lions are still sitting at the 18th position on the first round, first night of the draft. I think something tells me that Brad Holmes is going to make a move of some kind, whether it's to add picks, whether it's to give up a pick to move up, whatever it is. I think he'll see something there that's better than he's looking at.
I'm loving what you're saying, Mo. And Ryan is like jumping up and down in his seat right now because he wants them to move up and get Bijan Robinson.
That
as
was
their
my hot
second
take
pick.
alert. That was my hot take alert.
Hey, so we're rooting for that, man. So before the draft, before the season, before we even know the schedule, how it lays out, all right, Mo, you got 17 games. What are the Lions going to win this year? The over-under set at 9.5 in Las Vegas. What is the Dean giving me right now?
The Dean, thank you very much for that one. Well, let me just say this. When I went back and looked, I do a Monday countdown column, and I do a preview Monday countdown column before the start of the season. And I write it, and I don't pay any attention to it, honestly. The season starts. I couldn't even tell you what I wrote until the end of the season. I look back on it. And I look back on my first Monday countdown column last year. I think it was January 10th or something like that, a week after the season was over. I had picked the Detroit Lions to go 9-8.
Get out of here.
Back to back?
I swear to God, I did.
Back to back?
Get out of here.
But here's how smart I really am. The year after the Lions went 7-9, 2007. I picked them to go 9-7 and make the playoffs.
Okay.
They went 0-16.
Yes.
They went 0-16.
Oh my God.
I think the Detroit so let's move ahead a decade and a half. I think the Detroit Lions of this season, I think they're a double-digit win season. I think they'll win 10 or 11 games. If I had to pick it right now, I'd go 11-6, and they win the division. And you fans out there who have season tickets, you suffering fans, there will be a home playoff game at Ford Field.
Yeah, baby.
Guess
Let's go.
Guess who just got season tickets for the first time today? Ryan Ermanni for the first time in his life.
I am a season ticket holder, Mike O'Hara.
You know, Ryan and Monty, all that the hooping and hollering just there. All it tells me is that you're going to sell your tickets in the playoffs.
Well, hey, and pay for my season probably. So you're probably right.
This is a man whose season smells profit.
I'm a businessman, Mike. I'm a businessman.
Yes, you are.
And Mo, we leave you with something that you and me have always said back in the day during Tiger season. You ready?
Oh my God!
Fill in the blank.
Yep.
The Detroit Tigers are facing
an insurmountable 0-0 tie.
Yes, sir. Yes, they are. No, they're playing better now, Mo. Things are looking up.
Yeah, they are.
Things are looking up.
Losing 2-1 right now.
That's okay.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate it, buddy. Check out Mike
See you, Mo.
Mike on DetroitLions.com. Great stuff there. Hey, we're